As Gautama Buddha profoundly taught, in the end, only three things matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. These words, simple yet profound, echo through centuries, inviting us to pause and reflect. But in a world that moves faster each day, how often do we truly stop and think about their meaning? Picture this: it's midweek, and your to-do list is never-ending. Your phone buzzes with endless notifications, your thoughts race ahead to tomorrow's deadlines, and amidst it all, there's a quiet, persistent feeling, a longing for something deeper, something more meaningful. Have you ever wondered if the wisdom of the past could hold answers to the chaos of today? In our modern pursuit of success, we often forget the timeless teachings that have guided humanity for generations. Teachings like those of the Buddha are not just relics of ancient times, they are guiding lights, showing us how to navigate the complexities of life. Imagine if these lessons could help us not only achieve more, but feel more connected, more peaceful, and more fulfilled. Today, I invite you to journey with me into the heart of Buddhist philosophy. This isn't about religion or rituals, it's about exploring ideas that resonate universally. Ideas about love, kindness, and the courage to let go. Buddhism offers us tools to find clarity in a noisy world and peace in the midst of life's storms. But this isn't just a history lesson, it's a call to action. What if you could make simple changes that bring more happiness into your life? What if the key to freedom wasn't found outside, but within? Together, we'll explore practical wisdom to help us let go of what weighs us down and embrace the things that truly matter. This is a journey of self-discovery, a chance to uncover hidden treasures of joy and serenity. It's not just about listening, it's about living, transforming ideas into actions that uplift and empower us. So are you ready? Ready to leave behind the noise, the stress, and the endless comparisons? Let's begin this journey, not just as seekers of knowledge, but as travelers on the path to a more peaceful and meaningful life. Join me as we take the first step into the teachings of Buddhism, a step toward greater freedom, happiness, and self-awareness. Habit 1. Clinging to material possessions. Imagine standing in a store, holding the latest gadget or a trendy piece of clothing. In that moment, you feel a rush of excitement, a belief that owning this will make life better. Yet how often does this happiness fade as quickly as it came? How many times have we found ourselves chasing the next purchase, hoping it will fill an inner void? Buddhism teaches that our attachment to material possessions is one of the greatest sources of suffering. The Buddha said, "Attachment brings suffering." But what does that mean in today's world, where success is so often measured by what we own? The illusion of possession. We live in a consumer-driven society that equates happiness with accumulation. Bigger houses, faster cars, trendier gadgets, they promise fulfillment, but often leave us wanting more. Why? Because attachment to material things creates a cycle of craving. We believe, if I just get this one thing, I'll be happy. But once we have it, the satisfaction is fleeting. We start looking for the next object to fill the void. This attachment isn't just about wanting things. It's about believing that our worth and happiness depend on them. When we tie our identity to what we own, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Nothing in life is permanent. The car will break down, the clothes will go out of style, the latest gadget will soon be replaced by a newer model. As Buddhism reminds us, clinging to what is impermanent is like trying to hold water in our hands. It will always slip away. This realization can feel uncomfortable, even frightening, but it also offers freedom. How attachment leads to suffering. Attachment doesn't just make us dissatisfied, it impacts our relationships and inner peace. Think about it. When we compare what we have with others, feelings of jealousy and inadequacy creep in. We begin to measure our value against someone else's possessions, forgetting that true happiness comes from within. Moreover, attachment breeds fear, the fear of losing what we have. We become anxious about protecting our belongings, worried they might be stolen, broken, or devalued. This ties us down, limiting our ability to experience life fully and freely. Consider the story of a wealthy merchant who approached the Buddha, troubled by sleepless nights. Despite his immense riches, he was constantly anxious about thieves and the possibility of losing his wealth. The Buddha replied, "The more you own, the heavier your chains. The merchant realized that his possessions, instead of bringing freedom, had become burdens, practical steps to break free from material attachment. How can we untangle ourselves from this web of attachment? Buddhism doesn't ask us to renounce all possessions, but to approach them with awareness and balance. Here are some practical steps to cultivate freedom from material cravings. Practice gratitude. Each day, take a moment to appreciate what you already have. Focus on the abundance in your life, your health, relationships, or even a small comfort like a cozy bed. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's present. Simplify your space, declutter your home, and let go of items that no longer serve you. Ask yourself, does this bring me joy or value? Letting go of excess not only clears physical space, but also creates mental clarity. Embrace generosity. Share what you have with those in need. Whether it's donating clothes, giving to charity, or simply sharing a meal, generosity cultivates a sense of abundance and reduces attachment. Focus on experiences, not things. Instead of chasing material possessions, invest in meaningful experiences. A trip with loved ones, a shared meal, or a heartfelt conversation creates memories that last far longer than any object. Cultivate mindfulness. Pay attention to your thoughts and feelings when you desire something. Ask yourself, why do I want this? Will it bring lasting happiness? Often, just observing our cravings can weaken their grip on us. The freedom of letting go. Letting go of material attachment doesn't mean living without comfort. It means living without dependence on things for happiness. When we stop clinging, we create space for deeper joy and fulfillment. Take a moment to reflect. What's one thing you've been holding on to, believing it's essential for your happiness? What would happen if you let it go? As the Buddha taught, you only lose what you cling to. By releasing our grip on possessions, we gain something far greater, a sense of freedom, peace, and contentment that no object can provide. Let's begin by taking one small step today. Gratitude, simplicity, generosity, these aren't just concepts, they are practices that can transform our lives. Habit 2, dwelling on the past. Have you ever caught yourself replaying an old mistake in your mind, wondering what you could have done differently? Perhaps it's a missed opportunity, a relationship that ended poorly, or a moment you wish you could erase. These memories cling to us like shadows, holding us back from moving forward. But here's a question to consider. Does dwelling on the past change it? Buddhism teaches that clinging to past regrets is one of the most subtle yet powerful ways we create suffering for ourselves. As the Buddha once said, do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. This wisdom reminds us that the present is all we truly have, yet we often let the weight of our yesterdays rob us of its beauty. The cost of living in the past. When we dwell on past mistakes, we create a cycle of self-blame and guilt. These feelings act like chains, anchoring us to moments that no longer exist. Instead of learning from these experiences and letting them guide us toward growth, we get stuck in endless rumination, replaying what-if scenarios in our minds. Imagine a man carrying a heavy sack of rocks. Each rock represents a regret, a mistake, or a painful memory. The longer he carries the sack, the heavier it feels, draining his energy and focus. Yet he refuses to let go. This is what we do when we cling to the past. It burdens our present and limits our future. Moreover, dwelling on the past distorts our view of reality. We begin to exaggerate the significance of our mistakes while overlooking the good in our lives. We see ourselves through the lens of failure, forgetting our potential and the opportunities still ahead. A story of forgiveness and letting go. There's a powerful Buddhist parable about two monks traveling together. They came across a woman struggling to cross a river. One monk hesitated, as their vows forbade contact with women, but the other carried her across without a second thought. Hours later, the first monk couldn't contain his frustration and said, "How could you break your vow by carrying her?" The second monk calmly replied, "I set her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This story beautifully illustrates how holding on to the past serves no purpose. The first monk's resentment didn't change the act, it only weighed him down. Similarly, when we refuse to let go of our regrets, we carry unnecessary burdens that only harm ourselves. How dwelling on the past hurts us. It steals our present. Obsessing over past events distracts us from the joys and opportunities of the present. We miss out on the richness of life unfolding before us. It damages our self-worth. Constantly revisiting failures or mistakes erodes our confidence and creates a negative self-image. It creates a false narrative. Focusing only on regrets often leads us to believe our past defines us, when in reality, we have the power to write a new story. Practical steps to release the past. Letting go of the past doesn't mean ignoring it. It means acknowledging it, learning from it, and moving forward. Here are some steps inspired by Buddhist teachings to help release regrets and embrace the present. Practice self-compassion. Speak to yourself as you would to a dear friend. Instead of harsh self-criticism, remind yourself that mistakes are part of being human. Say, "I did the best I could with what I knew then." Cultivate forgiveness. Forgive yourself and others for past actions. Holding on to anger or resentment only perpetuates pain. Forgiveness isn't about condoning. It's about freeing yourself. Focus on the present moment. Engage in mindfulness practices like meditation or deep breathing. When your mind drifts to the past, gently bring it back to the now. Reflect and learn. View your past mistakes as teachers. Ask, what did I learn from this? How can I grow? Use these lessons to make wiser choices moving forward. Practice gratitude. Shift your focus from what went wrong to what's going right. Start each day by listing 3 things you're grateful for. Gratitude anchors us in the present. Seek support. Share your feelings with trusted friends or mentors. Sometimes just talking about your regrets can provide clarity and release. The freedom of letting go. Imagine how much lighter your life would feel if you stopped carrying the weight of old mistakes. Letting go doesn't erase the past, but it changes your relationship with it. Instead of being chained by regret, you become empowered by the lessons it taught you. As the Buddha wisely said, you cannot travel the path until you have become the path itself. To move forward, we must embrace the present moment as our foundation for growth and transformation. So take a moment today to reflect. What regret are you still holding on to? What lesson can you learn from it? And most importantly, how will you choose to let it go? Remember, the past is a teacher, not a master. By releasing it, we open ourselves to a future filled with possibilities, peace, and self-discovery. Habit 3. Worrying about the future. Have you ever lain awake at night, your mind spinning with thoughts about what might happen tomorrow, next week, or even next year? Perhaps you've caught yourself replaying endless what-if scenarios. What if I fail? What if things go wrong? What if I'm not ready? The future can feel like a vast, uncertain ocean, and worrying about it often feels like trying to control the tides. But here's the truth. No amount of worry can change what's coming. Buddhism teaches that excessive worry about the future robs us of the joy and beauty of the present moment. As the Buddha said, do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. Yet, in a world filled with unpredictability, how do we let go of our need to predict and control? The toll of future worries. When we constantly worry about the future, we lose our connection to the present. Imagine sitting in a room filled with loved ones, but instead of enjoying their company, your mind drifts to tomorrow's to-do list or next month's challenges. You're physically there, but mentally, you're somewhere else. This habit creates unnecessary stress and anxiety. It's like carrying an umbrella every day because it might rain. You're weighed down by a burden that often proves unnecessary. Worse, worrying creates an illusion of control. We think that by imagining every possible outcome, we can prepare ourselves. In reality, worry drains our energy without solving anything. Consider this. How many of the things you've worried about in the past have actually happened? And for the few that did worrying make them easier to handle? A parable on letting go of worry. A Buddhist story tells of a man crossing a river. To reach the other side, he builds a raft and paddles safely across. Once on the shore, he considers carrying the raft with him, just in case he needs it again. But the Buddha asks, why carry the raft when it has already served its purpose? This is how we treat worry. It might seem useful in moments of planning, but holding on to it becomes a burden. The future is like the river, constantly flowing and ever-changing. We cannot carry every just-in-case scenario with us. How worrying hurts us. It disconnects us from the present. Excessive worry pulls our attention away from the here and now, preventing us from fully experiencing life. It drains our mental energy. The more we worry, the less energy we have to face the challenges of today. It creates a false sense of control. We imagine that worrying prepares us, but it often blinds us to opportunities and solutions. Practical steps to overcome worry. Buddhism offers simple yet profound practices to help us let go of worry and embrace the present. Practice mindfulness meditation. Dedicate a few minutes each day to focus on your breath. When your mind wanders to future concerns, gently bring it back to the rhythm of your breathing. This practice trains your mind to stay in the present moment. Challenge your thoughts. Ask yourself, is this worry based on fact or fear? Often, our worries are exaggerated or imagined. Replace catastrophic thinking with balanced, realistic perspectives. Cultivate acceptance. Accept that uncertainty is a natural part of life. Instead of resisting it, lean into the unknown with curiosity. Trust that you have the strength to handle challenges as they arise. Focus on what you can control. Worry often arises from trying to control the uncontrollable. Shift your focus to actionable steps you can take today. For example, instead of worrying about an upcoming presentation, prepare and practice for it. Gratitude for the present. Each day, list 3 things you're grateful for. Gratitude shifts your attention away from future fears and roots you in the abundance of the present. Engage in grounding activities. Spend time in nature, take a walk, or enjoy a hobby that brings you peace. These activities anchor you in the present and help quiet the noise of your mind. The freedom of letting go. Imagine how freeing it would feel to live without the constant weight of what if. Letting go of worry doesn't mean ignoring the future. It means trusting yourself to handle it when it comes. The Buddha once said, "Each morning, we are born again. What we do today is what matters most." The future will always remain uncertain, but the present is where life truly happens. Take a moment to reflect. What worries are holding you back today? What would happen if you set them aside, even for just a moment? As we begin to let go of worry, we open ourselves to the fullness of life. The future may be uncertain, but when we focus on the present, we find clarity, peace, and strength to face whatever comes our way. Habit 4. Seeking approval from others. Have you ever found yourself checking your phone for likes on a photo or waiting anxiously for someone to compliment your work? It feels good to be acknowledged, doesn't it? But what happens when that approval doesn't come, or when it's not enough? In today's hyper-connected world, we've grown accustomed to measuring our worth through the opinions of others. Yet, Buddhism teaches us that this constant search for external validation only leads to insecurity and unhappiness. As the Buddha said, do not seek refuge in others, but find refuge in yourself. These words remind us that true confidence and self-worth must come from within, not from the fleeting approval of others. The trap of external validation. When we rely on others to feel good about ourselves, we give away our power. Think of it this way. Every time you seek someone's approval, you're handing them the keys to your happiness. If they praise you, you feel great. But if they don't, your self-esteem crumbles. This creates a cycle of dependence where your mood rises and falls based on what others think. You might even start altering your actions, words, or appearance to fit what you believe others want to see. But here's the thing. No matter how hard you try, you can't please everyone. And in the process, you risk losing yourself. A Buddhist parable on approval. There's a well-known story about a man, his son, and their donkey. As they walked through a village, one villager criticized the man for not letting his son ride the donkey. So, the man put his son on the donkey. But then another villager scolded them for making the young boy ride while the father walked. So they both climbed onto the donkey. Yet, another villager chastised them for overburdening the poor animal. In the end, trying to please everyone, they tied the donkey's legs to carry it, and the poor creature fell into a river. The moral of the story is simple. No matter what you do, there will always be someone who disapproves. The more you seek validation, the more you become a puppet of others' opinions. How seeking approval hurts us. It undermines our authenticity. When we prioritize others' opinions, we lose sight of who we truly are. It creates insecurity. Depending on external validation leaves us vulnerable to criticism and rejection. it breeds anxiety. Constantly wondering what others think can make us overly self-conscious and stressed. Practical steps to break free from seeking approval. Breaking this habit requires a shift in mindset, a journey toward self-acceptance and inner confidence. Here are some practices inspired by Buddhist teachings to help you reclaim your power. Cultivate self-awareness. Spend time reflecting on your values, strengths, and passions. Journaling or meditating can help you reconnect with your true self. Ask yourself, what do I stand for? What truly makes me happy? Practice self-compassion. Speak kindly to yourself, especially when you feel judged or criticized. Replace self-criticism with affirmations like, I am enough as I am. Treat yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a friend. Set healthy boundaries. Learn to say no to requests or expectations that don't align with your values. Boundaries protect your energy and allow you to stay true to yourself. Validate yourself instead of waiting for someone else's praise. Take time to acknowledge your own achievements. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Say to yourself, I'm proud of what I've done. Limit social media. Social media often fuels the need for approval. Take breaks from it and remind yourself that your worth isn't defined by likes or comments. Shift your focus. Instead of worrying about how others perceive you, focus on what truly matters to you. When you act with integrity and authenticity, you naturally attract genuine connections. The freedom of inner confidence. Imagine a life where your happiness doesn't depend on someone else's opinion, a life where you feel secure in your own worth, regardless of praise or criticism. The Buddha taught, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. When you cultivate self-love and self-acceptance, you no longer need external validation to feel whole. Take a moment today to reflect. Are there times when you've altered yourself to win approval? What would happen if you let go of that need and embraced who you truly are? By letting go of the habit of seeking approval, you free yourself to live authentically, confidently, and joyfully. Remember, the only approval that truly matters is your own. Habit 5. Holding on to grudges. Have you ever held on to a resentment so tightly that it consumed your thoughts? Perhaps it was an unkind word, a betrayal, or a slight that cut deeply. Holding on to grudges might feel justified at the moment, but over time it becomes a heavy burden, weighing down your heart and mind. As the Buddha said, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Grudges don't harm the people who hurt us, they harm us. They cloud our minds with negativity, trap us in a cycle of anger, and prevent us from experiencing peace. Yet letting go can feel so hard. Why do we cling to anger, even when it hurts us? Why we hold on to grudges? At the core of every grudge is a story. They wronged me. They were unfair. I deserve justice. While these feelings are valid, they often tie us to the past, keeping the pain alive. We might believe that holding on to anger protects us from being hurt again. Or perhaps it feels like the only way to maintain control in a situation where we felt powerless. But in reality, holding on to a grudge is like carrying a burning coal in your hand, hoping to throw it at someone else. The only person who gets burned is you. A Buddhist story of forgiveness. There's a famous story about two monks traveling together. They came across a woman struggling to cross a river. One monk, without hesitation, carried her across, despite their vow to avoid contact with women. Hours later, the other monk couldn't contain his frustration and said, "How could you break our vows like that?" The first monk replied, "I set her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This story illustrates the essence of grudges. They don't harm the person we're angry with. They harm us by keeping us stuck in the past. The impact of grudges on our lives. They poison our minds. Grudges fill our hearts with anger, bitterness, and resentment, leaving no room for peace or happiness. They keep us stuck. When we focus on past wrongs, we lose the ability to move forward with clarity and purpose. They harm relationships. Grudges can spill over into our interactions with others, creating tension and distrust. Practical steps to let go of grudges. Letting go of a grudge doesn't mean excusing bad behavior. It means freeing yourself from the pain it causes. Here are some Buddhist-inspired practices to help release anger and embrace forgiveness. Cultivate empathy. Try to understand the person who hurt you. What might have motivated their actions? Empathy doesn't justify their behavior, but can help you see them as human, with flaws and struggles like your own. Practice loving-kindness meditation. Engage in meditation focused on sending love and goodwill to yourself and others, including the person who hurt you. Repeat phrases like, "May they be happy," "May they be free from suffering." Over time, this practice can soften anger and resentment. Release the need for revenge. Let go of thoughts of revenge or retribution. Recognize that clinging to these desires only perpetuates harm and suffering, both for you and others. Focus on the lessons. Reflect on what the experience taught you. How has it shaped your understanding of relationships, boundaries, or forgiveness? Use this insight to grow stronger and wiser. Practice gratitude. Shift your focus from the wrongs done to you to the blessings in your life. Gratitude helps you see beyond the pain and reconnect with what brings you joy. Seek support. Talk to someone you trust, whether a friend, family member, or therapist. Sharing your feelings can help you process them and begin to heal. The freedom of forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or condoning. It means choosing peace over pain. Imagine how much lighter your heart would feel if you let go of the anger you've been holding on to. The Buddha taught, in this world, hatred never ceases by hatred. Hatred ceases only by love. This is the eternal law. By choosing forgiveness, we break the cycle of negativity and open ourselves to compassion and healing. Take a moment today to reflect. Who are you holding a grudge against? How has that grudge affected your peace of mind? What would happen if you chose to let it go? Letting go of a grudge isn't easy, but it's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. It's a declaration that your happiness is more important than your anger. Start small, take it one step at a time, and trust that forgiveness will lead you to a freer, lighter, and more peaceful life. We've explored how holding on to grudges weighs us down, poisoning our minds and hearts with resentment. But understanding the harm isn't always enough to release it. Sometimes it takes a real-life experience, a moment of realization, or a personal journey to truly grasp the power of letting go. Let me share with you the story of Daniel, a man whose struggle with anger and forgiveness mirrors what many of us feel. His journey shows how the heavy chains of grudges can be broken and how freedom can be found on the other side. In a small, bustling city, there lived a man named Daniel. By all accounts, he seemed successful. A well-paying job, a comfortable home, and a circle of friends. Yet beneath the surface, Daniel carried a heavy burden that no one could see. It wasn't physical, but emotional. He held a deep grudge against his childhood friend, Michael. Years ago, Michael had betrayed Daniel's trust in the worst way possible, stealing an idea for a business project they had planned together. The betrayal not only cost Daniel the opportunity of a lifetime, but also shattered their friendship. Every time Daniel thought of Michael, a wave of anger and bitterness would wash over him. He would replay the betrayal in his mind, imagining the confrontation he never had and the justice he felt he deserved. Even after years, when life had moved on, Daniel's grudge stayed with him, a constant reminder of his pain. One day, Daniel's life took an unexpected turn. At work, he was passed over for a promotion that he had worked tirelessly for. When he asked his boss for feedback, the response stung deeply. "You're talented, Daniel, but you're not easy to work with. Your bitterness shows, and it affects the team." That evening, Daniel sat alone in his apartment, staring at the city lights. For the first time, he began to see the ripple effects of his anger. It wasn't just his relationship with Michael that was poisoned. His grudge had seeped into other areas of his life, affecting how he interacted with colleagues, friends, and even family. He realized that he wasn't punishing Michael by holding on to his resentment. He was punishing himself. The next weekend, Daniel attended a community mindfulness retreat on the advice of a friend. During a session on forgiveness, the instructor shared a quote from the Buddha: "You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger." Those words hit Daniel like a bolt of lightning. For the first time, he saw his anger for what it was, a prison he had built around himself. The instructor guided the group through a loving-kindness meditation, encouraging them to send compassion not only to themselves, but also to those who had wronged them. As Daniel closed his eyes, memories of Michael resurfaced. At first, the anger flared up, but he let it pass, replacing it with curiosity. Why had Michael betrayed him? Was it out of greed or insecurity? Could it have been a mistake? Slowly, he began to see Michael not as a villain, but as a flawed human being, just like himself. Over the next few months, Daniel committed to letting go of his resentment. It wasn't easy. Some days, the anger came rushing back. But each time, he reminded himself of the Buddha's teaching. Forgiveness isn't about condoning the act, it's about freeing yourself from its grip. He journaled about his feelings, reflecting on the lessons the experience had taught him, how it had made him more resilient, more aware of the importance of trust, and more compassionate toward others. He practiced loving-kindness meditation daily, sending thoughts of peace not only to Michael, but also to himself. One day, Daniel made a bold decision. He reached out to Michael after years of silence. They met at a quiet cafe, where Daniel calmly shared how the betrayal had hurt him. To his surprise, Michael apologized sincerely, admitting that he had carried his own guilt for years. While their friendship didn't fully heal, Daniel felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He realized that forgiveness wasn't about rebuilding the relationship, it was about finding peace within himself. Daniel's journey of forgiveness taught him 3 powerful lessons. Forgiveness is for you, not them. Letting go of anger frees your mind and heart, allowing you to live without the constant shadow of resentment. Understanding brings clarity. When you see others as flawed humans rather than villains, you open the door to compassion and healing. Freedom lies in letting go. Holding on to a grudge doesn't protect you, it imprisons you. By releasing it, you reclaim your happiness and peace. What grudges are you holding on to? Are they bringing you closer to peace or keeping you trapped in the past? Like Daniel, you can take the first step toward freedom today. Start small, reflect, forgive, and let go. Remember, forgiveness doesn't change the past, but it transforms your future. As the Buddha said, in this life, hatred never ceases by hatred. Hatred ceases by love. This is the eternal truth. Are you ready to let go of your burdens and embrace the peace you deserve? As we've explored, our habits often act as invisible chains, holding us back from the peace and happiness we seek. Whether it's clinging to possessions, dwelling on the past, worrying about the future, seeking approval from others, or holding on to grudges, each habit keeps us trapped in cycles of dissatisfaction and suffering. But here's the empowering truth. These chains are not unbreakable. With awareness and intention, we have the power to change. Buddhism offers timeless wisdom to guide us on this journey. By practicing mindfulness, compassion, and self-reflection, we can release the burdens that weigh us down and embrace a life of clarity, joy, and freedom. True happiness isn't found in external circumstances, but within us, waiting to be discovered. As the Buddha said, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. By letting go of these habits, we take the first steps toward reclaiming that peace and building a more meaningful, fulfilling life. Now, I invite you to reflect on your own journey. What habits are holding you back? Which one will you start working on today? Remember, transformation begins with a single step, and the path to freedom is always open to those willing to walk it. If this resonates with you and you're ready to take steps toward inner freedom, join our community by subscribing to our channel, OM Wisdom. Here, you'll find more insights, practical tips, and inspiring stories to guide you on your path to mindfulness, growth, and happiness. Let's continue this journey together, one habit at a time. Share this video with someone who might need a little inspiration today, and let's spread the wisdom that helps us all live lighter, freer, and more joyful lives. Thank you for being part of this journey, and I look forward to seeing you in the next chapter of discovery. Until then, may you find peace within.